The Almost Perfect Podcast.
Welcome to the Almost Perfect Podcast, a celebration of fuck-ups, failures, and falling flat on your face. This is a podcast that believes you can learn from experience, but that experience doesn't have to be your own. Ha, I'm Bob Perfect, and I'm a functional fuck-up. Let's learn from somebody else's mistakes. And today we are actually learning from John Edwards because it is a crossover episode. Yeah, man, it is Tell Us More X, the Almost Perfect Podcast. Mojak Lehoko and I teamed up to have a conversation, a back and forth, since we have interviewed each other on our respective podcasts before, which is more of a one-way chat most of the time, although I think, with the Almost Perfect Podcast, I get a lot. I talk a lot, but in a lot. But this conversation, I wasn't allowed to. This conversation was a back and forth between myself and Mojak, who is a phenomenal comedian, a fantastic interviewer, and someone who I just dig, really hard. Him and I have gotten to, know each other a bit more over the last year. We've been playing games together. We send each other little messages being like, hey, you okay? And just checking in there, those sorts of things. So, yeah, man, I dig Mo's mind quite a lot. I like his approach to things. And I feel like we're kindred spirits in some ways. We do some, we think similarly in some ways and different in others. And that's what's dope about this chat is we find common ground. We see where we're different. And yeah, man, we have just an open and honest conversation about stand-up comedy, about writing, and about podcasting in South Africa. So we get into quite a lot. And I'm going to let you know off the bat, I definitely think I probably pulled a Joe Rogan here at some point. I'm not sure if everything I say is actually factually correct. So yeah, there were definitely times I was talking about shit I only half understand. So don't be telling other people some of the things I say as fact. Maybe go Google and see whether or not I'm right. And I do talk a lot of shit on this podcast that is just me speaking honestly, but I do know that that can be misinterpreted and that some people might feel some type of way about it. But I'm not trying to knock anyone else's hustle. I'm not, trying to dismiss what anyone else is doing. It's just, for me, I'm trying to figure out what's right for me, And when I talk about South African comedy, I mostly mean Durban. It's no secret that I just don't really vibe with the scene here anymore. And I don't really feel like I'm missing out on anything. Do I want to do comedy? Yes. Do I want to do it the way it's being done? I don't know. I'm not so sure. And especially, obviously, not in a panini. So I'm happy doing my little podcast. And once enough of us get vaccinated, then I'll put together my own shows, and I just don't feel like I need to be in the mix, I don't need to be on... It's weird, because obviously in comedy you need practice. So that's the thing. I know I'm going to need to do that when I start to do comedy again. But I've got the jokes. I've got lots. I've been writing again. I've got stuff. And I'm going to try it in different ways, which is something we essentially discuss a lot of in this podcast, is how to find your own way, how to do things your own way. And so, yeah, man, I'm actually, I guess I can tell you, moving back home on Wednesday. So that's going to be exciting. And one of the things that I'm going to be doing with regards to that is I'm going to be streaming more on Twitch. And I'm not just going to be playing games. I'm definitely going to be playing games, obviously. But I also figured it'll be a cool place to try out new material and also retire some old material. I have mentioned that before. And then even maybe tell some poems, man. I've got a couple poems in the bag from this year. I'll try to write some more. But I feel like that could be a way to do things for now. I mean, I'm still on that train of no performing, but I get other people are doing it, and you all know what you're doing and need to make money and all of that. I get it. So yeah, whatever. Everyone feels how they feel about that shit. Either you're cool with it, either you're not. We're over a year into this thing. There's no point preaching to anyone. You know the vibe. So yeah, man, I trust you to make your own decisions there. But for me, it is just about holding tight for a little while longer and then, figuring out the path I want to take because I do still want to do stand-up comedy. I just don't want to be a part of the fucking comedy scene. Like, is that okay? Like, can you do that? Is that possible? Well, I guess we're gonna fucking find out. What a week. South Africa truly is a fucking movie that is just, it's unbelievable, man. It's just not real. This country isn't fucking real. How do you have Cyril and Ace both suspending each other, fucking Ace like posting weird ass shit on Twitter, just calling journalists? It's a lot, man. It's a lot. And then you've got fucking the DA just, I don't know, man. Like, are they a parody of a political party? Is that what they're doing? Like, is this whole thing just an elaborate, is South African politics just like an elaborate joke? Like this, it's fucking Leon Schuster, isn't it? He's gonna pull a mask off. He's actually still around Maposa and John Steenhuisen and Helen Ziller. This is one of the greatest like living projects, art projects that we've ever seen. Because I guarantee you, one of these days, he's gonna pull the mask off and just being like, "You've been shuxed." That's it. This can't be real. This cannot be real, man. I hope you're having a good week. I've had a interesting week. I've been packing up like a lot for my gran, with my gran. We've been doing a lot of the final preparations for her move to Joburg. So that's been something. But then today, I'm talking to you on the Thursday night on Twitter. Well, we all got a little entertained, didn't we? Hey, for those of you who follow Almost Perfect ZA, you would have seen me duking it out with old Afro's chicken, which, not how I thought like I would end the week, but I had fun. I hope they had fun. I don't know if they did, to be honest. So here's what happened, right? 2 years ago, I pitched to Afro's, "Hey, want to sponsor the Heat City Comedy Festival?" And they were like, "Yeah, we'll think about it." And then they're like, "Hey, nah, not now. Maybe chat later." I was like, "Okay, cool." And then I sent them an email after the festival showing them all the media we had done. We were in newspapers, we were on TV and all of that. We were on websites. There was lots of interviews done, in Zulu newspapers and fucking, all the different vibes. Like, we were getting out there. So I sent that to them. Never got a reply. This morning I wake up and I see Afro's Chicken has liked my post about Luis Ogola, something I posted 2 weeks ago. And I forgot that these people were still following me on Instagram because my Instagram account's been on private for over a year now. So this is the first time I think they've interacted with me. And it's because they see a famous name. And so I'm like, I'm a little annoyed at this. I'm a little like, it's early in the morning. I haven't yet had my coffee. And I'm a bit touched. I'm a bit like, well, this is a bit disrespectful. And I get that I'm reading too much into it, okay? At the end of the day now, I'm like, hey, man, maybe not. Maybe you're a little paranoid. Maybe. But, I was just like, how's this shit? How are you going to like my fucking, posts on my private account, which, once again, they probably followed me before I went private. But, yeah, I'm like, how are you going to like one post and it's with, the most famous person, essentially, that I've interviewed? Like, what's this about? Especially after just ghosting me, And I get that there's different people handling the social media and other things, although it turns out, not really. People I've been chatting to at the top of Afro's, well, not really at the top, but in the marketing department, are just one rung above the social media marketer that they've hired. I know this because they've emailed me to apologize for. That's the thing, okay? So I tweet about it, and I'm just like, oh no, not Afro's Chicken. Actually, let me just get the tweet up. Like, it is a little petty. It is a little silly. I'm not going to lie about that. Probably didn't need to say it, but after today, I feel like it was a good call. So let me find this tweet. Sorry. Okay, so I said, not Afro's chicken, lacking my shit on Instagram after turning down the opportunity to work on the Heat City Comedy Festival and then ignoring my follow-up. Surely not. If you want chicken in Durban, go to Big Joe's, which is something I can definitely recommend. Like, if you eat chicken, quarter chicken and chips there is like $35 and it bangs. Like, I'm into it. But yeah, not an ad, by the way, just a genuine plug. So that's my tweet. It's got 1 retweet, 6 likes. I then followed up with, personally, I think they turned down my proposal because Neil Green and I brought up that they only played white South African music on the Live from the Winston podcast, and they shortly started playing Casper Nyovest, etc. soon after this dropped. So that's the thing, I actually do think that. I'm not sure if they've heard it, but it was kind of weird that after Neil and I, in our podcast, bring up that Afros played a lot of Desmond and the Tutus, man, for a company called Afros that's owned by white people. Not even gonna get into that, but anyway, a company called Afros was just playing the most 80 blow like kind of music. Was a little strange. And soon after that podcast dropped, they started playing more local music. They started playing more music with vernacular in it. They started playing more hip hop, and I noticed that. And I've always kind of thought that, hey, maybe they didn't sponsor the festival because of that. And I was like, that's fine. I get it. You know, like, you don't want to work with people that are talking shit about your brand. Makes total sense. Anyway, they get back to me on Twitter and on Instagram, just being like, yo, what are you talking about? Blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, yo, just leave me alone. I don't want to talk about it. Like, this is what I've said. Just leave me alone. And then they follow it up like with the thing of, oh, please email us your proposal. And it's like, this was 2 years ago. Like, but obviously the social media manager doesn't know what's going on, and that's fine. But maybe ask someone higher up before you eventually tweet me this absolute gem. Man, this is fucking... this is actually a beautiful diss, and I respect it in that regard. If it wasn't from an account with like 750 followers. But they said, first and foremost, we're not entirely clear about what you would like to work on with us. Your brand presence, or lack thereof, does not even entice us in terms where value would be shared between us. They then follow that up. That's a deleted tweet now, with the other one still up. So if you want to work with us, feel free to reach out to us again, and we'll look at your proposal. But if you don't hear back from us, we're probably still working on something more important. We appreciate your feedback and support. Yellow heart. Now, this is fucking cheeky, and I personally appreciate that. I think brands should tell people to fuck off more. Genuinely. But 741 followers. I went and looked. Heat City Comedy Festival. 800 and something followers. Haven't tweeted from there in 2 fucking years. So you want to talk about brand presence, Afros? More people are going to hear me talking about you now than are going to see your fucking tweets. So pay me. That's all I want. It's actually not what I want. I want you to fuck off. That's what I want. So yeah, this is all spiraled out of control on Twitter. And so it's just weird because they were following my personal account, liking my personal fucking Instagram posts, and then being like, oh, we don't see the appeal to you here. Like, oh really? Oh really? Oh really? Maybe, just maybe, you got a little touched. And maybe, just maybe, you had no fucking clue what was going on. And maybe you should have spoken to your boss before tweeting off some shit. Causing some trouble for your brand. But yeah, I've done community management. I know how it goes. Some days it's tough. Some days you're just like, yo, fuck this asshole. And that's why I run my own social media account. So I can literally say, yo, fuck you. And you go, how can this brand say this thing? And it's like, well, because it's me. I'm the brand. So I'm telling you to fuck off. And it's so much easier than hiring young people who have to deal with the stress of assholes like me on the internet. And then they say some wild shit back. And then it's a whole big remorse. Because now I've got the woman who I was originally dealing with for the festival who I chatted to, emailing me and being like, oh, I'm sorry that I never got back to you and this and that. And it's like, doesn't mention anything about the tweets, like the disrespectful tweets, and just completely glosses that over. And it's just like, I take responsibility and this and that. And it's just like, I asked you to leave me alone, like in the first DM. Like that was it. Like that's all I said was, I understand you're doing your job, just leave me alone. And they didn't leave me alone. So here we are, fuck afros. With that, shout outs. Yes, we are getting to the part of the show where if your name's not mentioned, you probably skip it. So here we go. This is for the patrons at the $10 tier. It's called the titular titles tier, and it means you get to work for the podcast if you give me $10 a month. You also get like a mug after 3 months. You get stickers immediately, or kind of immediately, like usually like a week or two after, depending. Sometimes 3, sometimes 4. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's the post office. It's time to give the shout outs to the cast and crew. To Chief Sales Officer of Subtle Heresies in the Greater Overberg region, Rousseau. Shout outs to you, bro. Shout outs to the inevitable ruler of the universe and Queen Swifty, Kath Jenkin. Shout outs to our executive producer, that is, of course, Stephen Olivier. Shout outs to Julian, who is the king. Shout outs to Karan Chetty, who is the assistant to the regional manager. Shout outs to Vishendra Naidu, who is our spiritual advisor. Shout outs to the almost perfect hedge fund manager, who is, of course, Karan Sleman. Shout outs to the key grip. It's a key role. Shout outs to Neil Green. Shout outs to our pantsless weasel, who is Tyron Love. And lastly, shout outs to our anonymous benefactor. Now, if you can guess who the anonymous benefactor is, email me, bob@almostperfect.co.za, and I'll send you a pack of Almost Perfect stickers. And lastly, if you want to support this podcast, you can also do so by buying a mug. Yes, I've got Almost Perfect mugs, literally just the logo on a white mug, but it looks lacquer. The Print Room Durban handled that. Shout outs to them. They give me a little discount. I give them a little shout out. That's how that works. Go get your stuff done by them. They really are solid. I've worked with them for years. Used to print the Durban night posters with them. Like when we Postumus and I were doing gigs together, we've worked with Print Room for a long time, done a lot of work with them, and I've found them to be very dope. So shout outs to the Print Room for printing the Almost Perfect stickers, the Almost Perfect mugs, and whatever else we're going to be getting printed from them in the near future. As I was saying, though, you can get a mug. They are 100 Rand each. 10 Rand from each sale goes to Sasonke, which is an organization that is working to decriminalize sex work in South Africa. They are sex workers themselves, and you can go check out sasonke.org.za to find out more about that. And with that said, well, it is time for the crossover episode of Tell Us More and the Almost Perfect podcast with myself, Bob Perfect, and the one and only Mojak Lehoko.
1 2 1 2 run things, rude boy. This is Mojak Lehoko, and this is the crossover podcast you never asked for. Of course, I do Tell Us More podcast, and I'm joined by the one and only Bob Perfect from the Almost Perfect podcast, the podcast about fuck ups, people who do wild and crazy shit, and it's gonna be a ton of fun. Bob, how you doing, bro?
I'm all good, bro. I'm living well, but I actually wanted to know, how are you living, Mojak Lehoko?
I'm chilling, bro. I went to the driving range today with my man's Wade. He's a graphic designer, good friend of mine from high school. And we just hit some balls. We chatted a little bit, and it was fun. You know, I'm just trying to take it easy. I watched Lloyd Gola's thing with Hassan Minaj today. Did you see that?
Oh, no, I did not see that. I actually went to the fucking car dealership with my gran and waited with her to get a new key for her car. And then we went and had breakfast. And then I've been packing boxes. So no, I did not see the Lois thing with her son Minaj. What's the vibe?
The vibe is it's about learning. Of course, Loy's got a new special that dropped, and Hassan is talking about like when Loy figured out this idea of learning, how it became the core of his new show. But the thing that stood out was Hassan said Loy seems like a person who is living life. You know, like while some people are focused on a project or an idea, he's out there living while he's doing that. So, you know, that's kind of been my mission too for the last, I guess, 12 months or so, is to live a bit. I mean, there's limitations because we're in a panoramic. But yeah, so that's what going to the driving range is a part of.
I totally feel you there. I feel like I've been like in stasis for the last few months, but in its own way, I definitely feel like I've also been living, because for people who don't know, I've been living with my gran for the last like 6-7 months. And in between that, I've been living with my gran and my grandfather. Mm-hmm. But my grandfather's no longer around. Sure. So there's been a lot that's happened in all of this time. And it's taught me that living isn't necessarily just living for yourself. You know, it isn't just necessarily like doing all the things that you want to do with your life. Sometimes living means giving back to other people, and it means, you know, being responsible. And it's also, you know, learning from hectic experiences, I guess, because what I've been learning over the last while is that life really is about the duality. It really is about the good and the bad. It's
Mhm.
really about, you know, the dark and the light. It's without the heaviness, you don't get the fun. Like, that's something I'm really starting to value.
It sounds like you have found purpose and meaning. Has this been a spiritual awakening? What happened, Bob? What happened in hard lockdown that changed you, bro?
I don't know if it's purpose or anything, like, because I don't know if I believe in that. Like, I'm so weird, bro. Like I'm, you know, like during the lockdown, I got back into philosophy, which was one of my first loves. Like, ever since I was young, I've
Yeah.
been dabbling, but you know, never learned, never studied it or anything like that. Just been picking things up here and there. So,
Yeah.
you know, that's the thing. My philosophies in life are very disjointed and weird, because here I am, like, reading Albert Camus, but I'm also like listening to Alan Watts. So, you know, you got the one person saying life's absurd and meaningless, and you just got to find the joy in it, and that's Alan Watts. So that's a
Yeah.
joke for the people who read those two guys.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, Bob. As you mentioned both of those examples, I was like, I know neither of these. So I need to step my philosophy game up.
Well, Albert Camus, he's like an absurdist. He thinks like life is absurd, and that you have to, like, his whole thing was about Sisyphus, where he said you have to imagine Sisyphus happy. Like, you know, you
What?
have to, yeah, you have to imagine that he's happy in his daily task, because it's the same thing that we're doing.
Okay. What is Sisyphus? Like you've
Oh,
lost me again.
oh yeah, sorry. So Sisyphus is this homie who he pissed off some gods. I can't remember exactly which ones, but it was probably the Greek ones.
Yep.
And they condemned him to roll a rock uphill all day, every day for the rest of his life, and it always
Fun
falls back
times.
down.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
So to Camus, the whole thing was that, yeah, this is life, and so you have to imagine Sisyphus happy. And then Alan Watts is this British dude who got super into like Eastern philosophy, and is a good teacher of that sort of thing if, you know,
Yep.
you're an English guy.
Sure.
So yeah, I've been enjoying those sorts of things. I've also been reading Nietzsche, which is also like on a whole fucking different thing.
I like
So
Friedrich
my
Nietzsche and beating the horse. That's my guy.
yeah, I've got Thus Spoke Zarathustra, and I've read the first like couple pages, but I would have to read them again and again.
Hey man, you take your time with that kind of literature. I remember the first time I tried to read Sun Tzu's Art of War, and I was like
Yeah.
in high school, and I was like, "Nah, fam, what do you mean the mountain and the whatever? Like, this doesn't help with FIFA. You know what I mean?" And then
But
when
it
I
does. But it does.
yeah, but you have to have like the mentality and the acumen to understand that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess some literature is just above the level when you're like young. You're
Mm.
looking for all this wisdom, but you have to actually go through life a little bit to understand this shit. But I assume you've been a reader your whole life.
Sort of, yeah. I mean, I have read quite a lot. It was really big in my family. So I remember like this one homie, JP, was a good friend of mine. One day he got sick and he wasn't at school for like a couple of days. So I went to his crib, like he lived maybe 2 blocks from Greenside Primary. And I don't know why, but like he gave me a bunch of money after I visited him. He gave me like $300. You know, he was doing nice. Not him,
Right.
his family, not like we were 11-year-olds who were CEOs of like multinationals. But he gave me like 3 clips, and I lived in Imarentia at the time, and I took a walk like a block to the bookstore, man. I bought myself like 4 Goosebumps. Like, you remember that shit? R.L. Stein, that was my
Yeah,
shit.
dude.
Roald Dahl was a big favorite. The Harry Potter books were weird because, also we've canceled J.K., but that's for another day. I read them from the third book, so there were a lot of references of like, why is this nigga still under a cabinet or a closet? What the fuck's happening with Harry, man?
I got into Harry Potter as well because like it was a popular thing, but I was like a library monitor at the time. So I was like
Yep.
at first like just like being a bit dismissive because it was a popular book. And then I read it and I was like I liked it. But then I carried on reading the books, and like by the end of it, it's just like this bitch is writing a script. Like she's describing everything. Like this is literally just telling me what's gonna happen in the movie. This isn't writing a book. So yeah, I got pretty over it. But Yeah, man, books are something that fuck, dude. Like, if I didn't have them when I was younger, like I don't know where I would be because they just taught me everything I needed to know. Because I was like socially awkward when I was
Hmm.
younger. So but also the problem is I was socially awkward because here I am reading books by adults about adult things, and I'm trying to interact with kids. I'm trying to like romance girls by like, writing poems and giving them chocolates and all this shit. And meanwhile, I just had to have like the right hairstyle, and I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
you were focused on the wrong thing. It's like, yo, Bob, we trying to get like status deodorant and smoke weed, and you're like, check out this bookmark. It's like a totally different. Like, it's like, who the fuck's this guy?
Yeah, man. Well, the reason I was wanted to like ask you about the book thing was mostly just because how did you get into writing?
How did I get into writing? So I think, I mean, like with every story, you can go back a little bit further, but
Yeah.
I guess like I was always kind of good at writing speeches. I was good at English, and
Okay.
then in
Did you
in
do
grade.
debating? You strike me as a debater.
Yeah, I mean, well, so funny story. Well, actually, not funny. Just the story. People will decide. Um, my English teacher, Miss Antil, was like, "Yo, you got to come speak. You got to do this public speaking thing, you know." And I was like, "Okay, ma'am." I was cool. I really dug her, and I think I maybe had a crush on her, but that's And
Mr. Mayor
so
Glenwood, shout outs. Only reason why I know Afrikaans.
like a squeeze is a squeeze. No, gonna get in a lot of trouble for this. But so she was like, "Hey, come do public speaking." So I rolled through, but we were also doing impromptu, which meant like you get the topic. I don't know. I think it's 30 minutes before, and you write speeches.
Yeah.
And mine were always funny, and I was doing bits. And then Miss Antil was good friends with my other English teacher, Mrs. Biddlecombe, who asked me to do debating, and I did that. I got full colors for debating in high school. Fast forward, I
Nice.
guess, into maybe I don't know what year I was in university, or I just maybe dropped out. And I was doing stand up comedy, and I'd met Loy Gola. And after knowing him for maybe like 6 months, he's a good dude, really good dude. He had launched Late Night News, and I texted him. I'm like, man, this is crazy. Your show is going up against the Champions League, like the biggest fucking football event outside of the World Cup. I thought that was really brave. And eventually I hollered at him. I was like, hey man, can I come to these brainstorms? I'd just like to check out the process. And dude, that first day was so scary, man. It was like season one of Eleneno's Riyad
I'm
Musa.
terrified for you right now just hearing this.
Dude, season one, Riyad Musa's there. Conrad Koch is of course Lloyd Gola. Kagiso's the head dude.
Kagiso,
Dude, there's a Lindsay Chutel who's like a journalist now, but she's a great writer. She's Ivy League, graduated from Columbia. There
David
was a
Kabuka.
Kibuka's there. This dude called Nim, Lionel Skink. All these people that had not only like writing chops but political backgrounds. Karabo Ledeja. And so my first day, I just watched, and I see Loy a week later, and I say, man, I wanted to say something in that meeting, but I was so scared. And the next week he was like, yo, just talk, man. Like it's okay. And I pitched a piece about Blade and Zamande. I was like, what has Blade and Zamande done? And then I was like, fuck all. Thank you. That's the piece. And then like like in his 5 years, what has this dude done? And so I went back, I researched him, and I wrote this piece of like he graduated from the University of I think it was Natal at the time. And so that was my first start. Loy put me onto the show. He let me write, and Camilo Salugi, who also started at a similar time. He was like just a runner, him and I were the young boys in that group. And over time they put us on. And yeah, so it started with like satire, and then it moved to narrative scripts, and then it was like sketch stuff. And it's been almost like 9-10 years of it, maybe 10-11 years of writing. So that's been interesting.
That's such a fucking crazy start. It's only the kind of story that could happen in South Africa at that
Mm.
time.
Mm.
Because like there's no one that's gonna be like, yeah, no, I started writing because I was at the SNL, like studios, and they just said, no, speak up, bro. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, I was doing, let me contextualize. I was doing stand up already, and like, I was kind of nice in my early days. So I'd won over a few people. I'd been doing some odd stuff with John, and so I think Loy in that regard trusted me because he was like, okay, this guy's got some funny chops, and you know, if he brings fire, it's cool. If he doesn't, we keep it moving. You know, it was like everybody would win either way. And so, yeah, there's definitely a lot of accessibility for you. For you, what was like the writing stuff for you? How did you get into your kind of journalism?
Oh, well, that was from MySpace. Like, well, actually, the first thing I ever got printed was
Wow,
a
Bob, you
letter.
old, bro. You
I
old,
am,
bro.
dude. At 34 years old, I do feel old now. Like the world has passed me by. I don't know what the kids are into. I'm writing about music made 5 years ago now. I'm done with trying to
Wow.
keep up with what's happening. But the first thing I ever wrote that got printed was actually the first thing I ever wrote was a poem about wrestling, and it was called
What?
Raw, and it was in my school magazine. And I can't
Okay.
fucking remember how it went, but it
Yeah.
was a haiku. I'm good at haikus. I'm actually going to tell you a haiku now. I do this on my show sometimes. It's called How to Write a Haiku.
Hmm.
Let me see if I can remember it off the top. One, two, three, four, five syllables. Next line, seven. Then five more again.
That's a haiku.
That's a haiku, and it's done in like that's literally how you write a haiku. Five
This is
syllables, then seven, then five.
this is so random, but the last one of the last fun, like really enjoyable games I played was called the Ghost of Tsushima,
Oh
and so
yes,
like so there's like little cutscenes where he'll like go into like a spring that heals him, and he reads. You can choose three different haikus to read about either life, death, or like war,
sick.
and that's like the intermittent like kind of experience of finding these little points across the map. So I'm not familiar with haikus. I know more like rhyming and shit in terms of poetry. Like
I feel you.
I
No,
want
but
my
that's what
shit
I
to
love.
rhyme.
No, that's what I mean. These like a lot of my poems rhyme. Like I love limericks. I love
Yep.
fucking just basic like two like kind of stuff as well. But that's actually probably what started off was poetry back then. But then the first thing I got printed like properly was a
Yep.
letter to Blunt magazine where I
Okay.
said I was going to write a letter to the local municipality and stick it on the door of the city hall. And I've never told the story before.
Go for
So
it.
yeah, I did that after working at a photo shop. I was about 15 or 16. I was 16, I think, because I had to
Yep.
be legally. And yeah, I was working at a photo shop on a Saturday. I rode down to City Hall. Nobody was there except me. I stuck my letter to the door. And they never sent me the watch that I was meant to have won from Blunt Magazine for that letter. So that's
For
how my
people who
writing career started.
that's pretty crazy, dude. For people who don't know, Blunt Magazine is a skateboard magazine, right?
Yeah, skating, and it became a music magazine. It became like a alternative youth culture magazine, but primarily skateboarding.
Just to let people know, because maybe they think we're talking about Blunt. That's a different magazine. That's High Times. For those of you that aren't aware, that we're very specific about our literature over here.
I haven't been published there yet. I'm hoping they interview me one day. That's actually like kind of the only like publication that I'm like, yeah, that would be a nice one.
I don't really, yo, man, I was thinking today of like why I think smoking weed's a bit corny.
Dude, smoking weed is the corniest shit on earth, but I don't mind being a corny dude. Like I've learned to just embrace that. I am a fucking corny ass motherfucker, and I love smoking my weed because it makes me feel good, and the world makes me feel bad.
So I agree with you, do you? But I was like, why do I feel this way? Like, am I becoming a conservative? Like, am I becoming like a, like a closeted old man? And I think it's because people I knew were smoking so young. Like at the time, they were also watching Dragon Ball Z. So that's what weed like. So that's what like weed reminds me
That's your
of.
trigger.
Yeah, like weed reminds me of people shaving for the first time and Dragon Ball Z. So I'm just like, oh, come on, man. Y'all still talking about Tazos? Get the fuck out of here. Yeah, it was bothering me. I didn't know why. I do want to
I
ask you,
actually
Bob.
managed to work that through.
Yeah, that's what therapy's for. We're gonna get to that, but we're talking about Blunt Magazine. Did you skateboard, or were you down with skate culture?
Oh yeah, no, I skated every day at like one stage. I used to skate to like there was a beachfront skate park. I used to like skate and then go bodyboard and then skate some more. Then fucking go to a friend's house, have a house party, smoke weed, drink beer. Like at 16, this was the life, bro. Like being a Durbanite is amazing.
You were living rebel CrossFit, skateboarding, and
That's the funniest thing, dude. Like about like alternative culture. Like if you even just look at like being in the mosh pit, dude. Like, you have to be so fit. Like, I can't get in a mosh pit now. I will fucking just like, not even just the always punching you and stuff. That's whatever. It's the not being able to breathe because I smoke too much and I haven't gone for a run in a while, you know? So yeah, dude, being a young alternative kid, you're actually fairly fit. I mean, just look at fucking Henry Rollins. I don't know if you know him, but he used to be the lead singer of Black
Spoken word
Flag.
guy, right?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Everyone knows him from a different thing. I saw him here in South Africa. He actually did an interview with him via the website Predicament Is Yours once. We sent him some questions. He didn't answer some of the ones about performing in a casino and not performing to poor audiences. I'm just gonna say that. But
Sell out.
he did call me out for asking him about Black Flag, and like it was weird. He scolded me and like weird memories.
Yeah, I mean, that is bizarre. What interests me, like, what is it that attracted you to skate culture? What did you like about it?
I think it's. I mean, it's just different, dude, and it's just punk, and it's just like you also. I don't know. It's hard as fuck in its own way. Like, whilst you've got your guys doing rugby and like being
Yep.
masculine in those ways, like
Mhm.
skateboarding's got its own ways of being like pretty masculine in terms of just slamming into the ground over and over again, and you keep getting up
Mm.
and you keep like. I think that's actually the thing about skateboarding is that I've never gotten good at it. I've always been shit at it. Like no matter how many years I put into it, no matter how much effort I put into skateboarding, I could never do the things other people could do. Like my feet just don't work that way. But it's that constantly trying, and once you get a trick on lock, it feels amazing. And then you try the next thing and like you eat shit for a week and
Yep.
then all of a sudden, you know how to do the trick. And like, yeah, that's the thing about skateboarding in particular that I love. But it's the culture around it was also
Yeah.
just so chaotic. It was just about being destructive and just fucking hating the world and just, like writing your name on shit. And like, yeah, it just felt like as a young kid who wanted to rebel against society, skate culture and all of that definitely appealed to me.
From what you said about process, skateboarding and golf are the same thing. You heard it here
Yeah.
first.
Just for slightly different people. I've played golf a little bit. Like I've gone to the driving range. That shit is not a fun time. Like it never does what you want it to do.
Same process, bro. Kick flips and learning how to hit a driver is the same shit. We've just mashed together two completely disparate groups of people.
I mean, but that is like the thing about life and the thing about being a comedian, I guess, is finding those things. It's finding where we cross over and finding those processes where people are like, I mean, comedy is one of those things. It's about constant iteration. It's about
Mm.
sucking and plateauing at times and not knowing what you're doing wrong. How am I, are my feet not right? And
Yeah.
like stuff like that. And it's like, oh, let me actually just change this word around here. Oh, snap, that hit there. And it's like, oh, let me move my feet up to the bolts. And like, I'm not too sure. Like maybe for you, it's like, let me move my hand down a little bit more. Let me twist my grip a bit. And then all of a sudden, after trying for like a fucking month, the joke hits, or you land the fucking, kickflip, or you smash the ball further than you've ever gone. And like those are the things about life, man. They are like no matter who you are, I think there are ways to relate to other people.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was going to say, Bob, I've skated too, so you don't have to change the metaphors, but I appreciate you for being inclusive.
Well, I didn't know because I know you're a footballer. Like that's the thing that like
Yes.
I understand about you. So that's the thing. I figured maybe we would have had you would have, but also like I was gonna say you might have had a jockey at school experience, but like I was playing cricket and softball and hockey and fucking all the sports at school as well. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, how did you get into sports? I assume through school.
Yeah, I mean, I just liked winning, man. I still like winning. Like,
You're
bro,
competitive.
I fucking love winning, dude. Like, I can take a loss where we put in an effort and people were better than us, but I gotta win, dude. Everything is like so in school, I mean it's weird, I mean this is one of the tragedies of like having or kind of like growing up with a single mom is that she was incredibly busy. So there's certain things I just missed out on because I couldn't get to. But like
I feel you there.
I was making provincial teams in like primary school, and like I'm not
Nice.
saying I would have been a incredible whatever, but I was being picked for like Gauteng, whatever, like East and shit. But I couldn't get to that level. So like that's the only thing I I won't say regret in life, but I'm like, man, if I got into some coaching as a footballer, I think I would have been cooking a lot of motherfuckers because I already am. But like, I think I could have been nice. And yeah, I love winning, man, and I love trying stuff and failing and persisting in that process and eventually getting it right and not comparing yourself to other people because like that's what skateboarding was like for me. It's like I just couldn't get it right, but it wasn't about what other people could do. It was about how I had improved. It's like, hey, I can ollie today. Hey, I can do a pop shove it or whatever. Like so that's the thing about sport. It was always trying to beat my own personal best in whatever that sport was.
I mean, I tried that. The problem is my friends were fucking assholes. So it's like, yeah, I landed an ollie, but then it was like, oh, look at Bob, he can ollie, yay! Like
Yeah,
meanwhile they're
that
busy
could be a
busting like
problem.
trays. Like, so what we're learning here is just surround yourself with the right people, supportive people.
Well, without a doubt, dude, that is like a major thing of like, but I feel like that comes like as you get older. Did you find like your circle got smaller as you got older?
My circle got smaller in this last fucking year, bro.
Oh,
Like,
I mean, everybody, we like, the radius has changed.
but definitely, I mean, more towards like my late 20s than anything because
Mm,
you just start to like, I don't know. Okay, so like I'm also like, as someone who's like antisocial, I'm also very like socially minded. Like I'm very aware of what's happening in social circumstances, and that can drive me
sure.
fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like, and yeah, like that's the thing. I know the power dynamics in a circle when I walk into them, kind of thing, and
Mm,
that's been very hard to like just deal with. And these days, it's like it's so much easier. Well, not these days, but over the years, where it's just been like, you know what? Like, stop worrying about like what other people think of you and what they're yeah. And if someone says some shit to you, just think
yeah.
they're cool. Like that's it. Don't try to read too much into other people's interactions. Don't try to read too much into body language and things people say. And people have different ways of communicating. Maybe you're reading situations the wrong way. Just give everyone the benefit of the doubt until they literally prove you wrong. And if people want to talk shit about me behind my back, fuck it. Like I can't control that, and that's a waste of their time. So that's kind of where I'm at with all of that.
I think what you're referring to is EQ, emotional quotient, the ability to be able to read and process interactions without them being like loaded, right?
Yeah, that's the problem though, is like for me it was always loaded before and now it's just like learning that it's not loaded.
I think I was lucky. Maybe it was similar, maybe we're not, but that ability to be somewhat perceptive of what's going on around you and acutely aware. Like before the pandemic, I'd get to a place and not feel the vibe, and I'd say to people, "The energy's off," and just bounce
Yeah.
like immediately. Like I wouldn't go. Maybe the night will get better. Maybe this tequila will get me right. I'd be like, "Peace out." Gonna go boot up the Xbox. I was just like, I don't want to deal with whatever this shit is. Like this energy here is like bizarre.
Yeah, that's what I've got into in my late 20s and now in my 30s is like being able to do that. But for so much of my 20s, it was about, being with people and being with my friends and, being out and just constantly, having fun, but also looking for others' approval around me, like
Yeah.
looking for my peers' approval. And so you do like go to events you might not necessarily vibe with, and you might stick around and
Hmm.
deal with people you don't necessarily want to deal with just because you don't want to be the party pooper and you don't want to miss out. That fear of missing out is so big when you're like
Huge.
in your teens and when you're in your 20s. But I just don't have that anymore. Like I
Mm.
haven't done a comedy gig in fucking since December 2019. And like
Wow.
I do miss it, but I don't have that fear of missing out. Like I'm not like watching everyone doing it now and going like, "Oh, I'm missing out on so much." I'm just like, "Hey, people are doing their thing. That's cool. Like I'll do it when I can." Like for my side.
So how do you internally negotiate that? Because I'm playing a lot less. The FOMO is also a lot less. But how did you get to that point? That's what is intriguing for me. How did you learn to be able to switch that off? To be like, no,
All the
I
best
can.
comedians are old,
Okay. What
so
do
I
you
just
mean?
need to get old.
Yeah.
Like
That's it. Just age.
I think it helps. Like I think it definitely I think knowing what you're fucking talking about definitely helps, and getting some life experience helps. And like, I also think the South African comedy isn't necessarily doing it like at its highest level. I mean, that
Okay.
might sound like derogatory, but what I mean is like you're not performing every gig being, the most discerning audiences, and it's not always full, and it's not always the tightest lineups, and like
Sure.
it's just not like at the same like you're not competing at the same level as if you were in New York or London or any of those places. And like that's not a knock on it. It is just the way it is. So
Okay.
to me it's like it's cool. It's almost like it's a lot of these gigs are practice, and that's great.
Yes. Hmm.
Like that's obviously necessary and we need to do that. But I don't have an end goal right now. Like I've got my two comedy shows. I've got one written and another one that I'm currently writing, and I need to test them and
Yeah.
before I can do them and stuff. But that's the thing. I've got it, and hopefully I don't die before I get to do them. But I know I'll get to probably do them if time carries on. So that's the thing. I'm not that stressed about it. I've done it before. I know I can do it again.
Yeah.
And I'm not missing out on doing open mic gigs to 10 people. Like that's just the honest fucking truth. Like
So to me, it sounds like almost the way you frame the gig is they're almost, how do I say it? They're part of a process. They're not the end event. They're not the end goal. Does that make
no, the
sense?
end goal is your one man show, and I think that's for
Mm.
everyone, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's how we all see, gigs. Well, it depends. If you've got a one man show, that's how you see, other gigs, smaller gigs where you do 10 minutes, gigs where you do 20 minutes, and that. Those
Yeah.
are you for one though, like obviously you want to give the audience the best possible thing. I'm not trying to dismiss any of that. Like if
Sure.
I come do like a 10-minute set, I'm gonna give you my fucking best for those 10 minutes. But I'm also gonna
Yes.
try things. I'm also going to try and figure out some stuff that might not necessarily have locked yet, and eventually those things go into the main set for the main show that I want people to come and see me talk for an hour. Like, I don't think any comedian necessarily wants to be on a lineup. You want to be the reason why people go to the show.
So you're saying we're almost like we're compromising in a way to get to where we want to be. We do
Every
this other
comedian does
stuff.
this around the world.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. No doubt.
yeah.
No doubt.
But I'm just saying, like in South Africa, the audiences are probably a little smaller and maybe less into what I'm saying.
Know thyself.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Like, and I personally just like don't vibe with people as well as maybe everyone else does. And
Mm.
so, like within the scene and stuff. And so, like, I'm trying to figure out a path that's my own, and that
Yes.
I work with people that I want to work with, but I don't
Mm.
necessarily have to be just another cog in the comedy machine. Because you look, there's lots of people over time that have really figured this thing out. I look at Loy, man, like and like he's
Loic
really
Golai.
just
Yeah.
yeah, his path. He just fucking he's done his own thing, like
Mm.
without. I mean, obviously he's played the game and he's done the gigs that he's had to do, in the beginning and stuff like that. But nowadays, like he's only going to pop in if he needs to test material. It's
Sure.
not it's not because he needs to be a part of the scene. He's doing his own thing. And so I think sometimes, or at least for me early on, I was very caught up in the scene and very
Mm.
caught up in trying to grow comedy, and
Mm.
especially in Durban, and trying to yeah, just make things more than what they were. And now with years and jadedness, I'm like, let me just do my thing.
Well, it's funny. Like the stuff you're saying sounds like the conversation I had on your podcast, which is like the last time I really spoke truthfully about comedy broadly
Yeah,
speaking. Because now I really try not to talk about this shit no more, just because it is loaded and you're.
it hurts your bookings.
I mean, it's my comedy does that. No, I'm joking. No, I'm also like I'm out the game, I'm well, not out the. Oh, it's always a weird thing to talk about. I almost want to move on just
But
because
you're
we
not on the
find.
circuit. You're not in the circuit.
No, I'm not in the circuit. I'm at home, bro. I'll be at the crib at 11 o'clock deciding if I want to eat a nachi or an orange or a nectarine. Like that's my that like I just kind of do what I want now. That's what I want to do. I want to do what I want when I want to do it.
That's 100% it, man. And like that's what I'm feeling. Like there's a time for comedy, there's a time for podcasting, there's a time for writing scripts, there's a time for fucking disappearing for 6 months and nobody hearing from you. Like
Mm.
there's time. Like, like there really is. Like look at Ari Schaefer, like a couple of years ago, that dude literally just went and traveled and like left his cell phone at home. Like you can do whatever you fucking want in this world. Like, if you're blessed enough, if you can sort out the finances,
Yeah.
you can make shit happen for yourself in whatever way. Like Daniel Kidson, man, that dude fucking just puts shit on Bandcamp and like makes it super hard to watch him live. Like,
Can I
limited tickets and all of that.
can I tell you a story about Daniel Kitson, right? So this is so interesting because 2012, Rabin, who I just there's a promoter here in Joburg called Rabin Hardith,
Hardith.
organized, just for people who don't know, don't have context. Years ago in 2012, he went to Edinburgh with Dave Levinson and Lois Sokola. Somehow the guys found out about it and he invited a bunch of us, and I eventually went. In Edinburgh, I think like Trevor was like, yo, you've got to see this guy Kitson. So we're like, what? You got to see this guy. So Kitson has nothing online. I don't think I've ever seen anything of his, by the way.
You can literally get his stuff with Bandcamp and that's it.
Right? So not on YouTube, not on whatever. So anyway, he shows at the stand in Edinburgh, dude. People are queuing 3 hours before to watch this guy. That you can't buy the ticket online. There's no compu ticket. I'd never seen that before in my life of like people literally waiting outside to buy a ticket to this act. And like, I'm like, what kind of a model is this? What is this?
Dude, Doug Stanhope fucking flew to Norway, fucking put a stage in a warehouse and set up a bunch of fucking chairs. And that was it. Like, that was a whole entire comedy special. Like, there's so many ways to do this thing, dude. Like, that's the thing that, like, inspires me when you tell me, like, about Daniel Kitson like that. And, like, I just see so many different comics who aren't the most famous comic in the world, but I fucking know who they are, and they full like venues everywhere they go. So there must be something to that. And those guys aren't doing, open mic gigs like
They're not.
10 people.
They're
It's
doing
just
yeah.
yeah, no, that's the thing. It's just that's the thing that I just keep thinking about. It's like sometimes you have to take yourself out of toxic situations.
I feel you, man. It's all about kind of your own mental health and fortitude. You mentioned time earlier, which is quite interesting. Let's fast forward 2.5 years. Where's South Africa? What does it look like in your eyes?
Oh fuck.
What's
That
the
is
landscape, bro? 2.5 years time. Where are we?
that is such a scary question, dude.
Where are
Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think it's good. Like, it's hard to be positive right now. Like, if you look at the landscape, I mean, hopefully there's, some change with the elections, but then it's like, well, what's that change? And that's the thing. We need a fucking miracle at the moment, is the way I see things, unfortunately. And it's not just South Africa, it's the entire world seems to be in this weird space that feels like there needs to be total upheaval for any sort of like goodness to come. Like we like, I know some people might be like, oh, fucking leftist, whatever, blah blah blah, but like we can't have billionaires, bro. Like this isn't like, as long
But
as there's people
Bob,
in the world
what about Jay-Z and Dr. Dre, Bob? What do you mean?
I mean, like let's ask them how they got their startup funding.
What about
Yeah, no, I mean,
Hove?
respect to them for being able to, take drug money and make it real. But like at the same time, it's yeah. I mean, the whole thing is, if someone has $1 billion, that's a billion people that don't have a dollar. Like that's the simplest way to explain that. But like, yeah, and there's only a couple billion people in the world, so you get rid of the billionaires, and everyone's like what, like $100 richer, probably. Oh fuck, we're not even that much better off. Maybe we don't kill
Yeah,
the billionaires. I don't know.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
when
My
you do
math
the
might be off.
yeah, when you do the math, it's like, oh shit, wait, hold up. That's everybody gets $6 from
We kill the billionaires, but we also get to kill the millionaires. That is one thing like that I think is priceless.
Oh, that's too you murking it. But the thing is, they make such a small percentage of the population. But I hear what you're saying. You're saying we do away with some of that stuff.
Well,
Yeah,
well, yeah. So I just think, unfortunately, South Africa should have dealt with a lot of the issues that are persistent when apartheid ended. Man, should have just been like, to my homies, to my family, to all the white people, just being like, "Yo, we're taking the shit now." Because
really,
then,
just like that.
yeah, yes, almost just like that. Like, if you look at like Germany and shit, as they say, although Germany went through a lot. I mean, it's been 80 odd fucking years, maybe even longer,
Sure.
in the 40s, yeah. So, but like, they did the shit that they had to do, like, to get over stuff. Like, they put the laws in, and it's not just there. I mean, there's other examples throughout the world
Yeah.
where, places have decolonized, but obviously there's a lot of strings being pulled behind the scenes, and we all know the way the world works. So unfortunately, that was never going to happen. But I do think, like, land distribution should have happened way sooner, and I think a lot of the issues that we face within the country could be changed by that, because like a lot more people would have access to wealth than they do now. A lot of it's tied up in land that's not even being used, and
Hmm.
yeah, there's just that's the problem. I'm not feeling very positive about the next 2.5 years
Yeah.
here. But I don't really know what that means, like,
Sure.
we've carried on this far. So who knows? Yourself though, are you at least positive about it?
Bro, I don't know. I'm in a fog, dude. I'm in how long has it been now? Since
What are you talking about? How long is what?
when did this how long has this country been like this, Bob? It's been no
I mean, do you want to ask my like
nah,
background, or do you want to ask me?
nah. Pandemic's been what, like a year and a
You're in
bit,
your
right? So I'm still in my sitting tight phase of
yeah.
like, just if my mom Dukes gets this vaccine, bro, I can relax a little bit. Like that's the
Same.
not to say
Although I'm still a little
there's not
worried.
just yeah, and
I've
that's what I
had
was gonna say.
friends die, so yeah.
I'm not by any means going at like that's the end of any health concern, but in terms of the immediacy of this one, at least it's like, okay, we've sort of gotten that, and there'll be some kind of
We can all breathe a sigh of relief.
just something, dude. Like just a little ounce of like, because like from working at LNN, dude. After we weren't working there anymore, I could not read the news like on a regular basis. To this day, I can't, because it's like, you ever follow a story of like a corrupt thing, and then it pops up 6 months later, and you're like, no, these oaks still haven't fixed this shit. And
Yeah,
so,
and then 5
so
years later.
and it's a cycle of stuff. But I think I'm part positive. If we can just get this vaccine rollout, crack a lack in, and then we can go back to worrying about normal stuff like being murdered. Like
Xenophobia. Yeah.
yeah, let's go back to the old stuff. Poverty and no, but it's just like, I think, and also it's weird because like normal wasn't necessarily good either, right? Like before we
No,
where were
dude, like,
we
things
are
things were
now?
pretty fucked.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, just get people vaccinated. Let's deal with that thing, and then we'll deal with other shit as it comes around. And then maybe I'll be a little bit less uptight about all this shit.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with all of this is, like, political change requires a lot of sacrifice,
Yeah,
and like, we've just seen, like, people can get complacent and be complacent because they have what they need and they're
yeah,
placated. And so you're not necessarily that motivated to political will because your life's okay. And that's the problem I think we're facing around the world, is maybe the middle class is actually bigger than people thought, and it is more comfortable than people thought. So I don't know, like, how change can come. And like, I hate like preaching revolution, because revolution is usually violent, and I don't dig that. Like, I don't want anything like that in this country ever again.
mm-hmm.
Like, so it's just one of those things where it's like, we do need structures to change, because they are clearly incorrect, and money is just being siphoned away from the people at the bottom, the people who create the stuff in this country. Like, the main thing is, the mines should have been fucking nationalized ages ago. You look at like Nordic countries,
Yeah.
and they're selling their fucking oil, and everyone in the country gets a fucking payout from that shit.
Yeah.
And we could be doing the same thing here. Like every South African could be getting some of the gold. Like it's like just imagine once a year you get like $1,000 in your bank account just because South Africa sold gold. Like that's
Yeah.
how it should be.
Yeah, I mean that would be dope, man. Some royalties off this gold and platinum shit. I would like that a lot, man. Talking about platinum and gold, music and how it is measured has totally changed. We're in a streaming era. Do you think that's distorted like how successful artists really are? I know I'm jumping big topic, but
Oh,
do you think
yeah,
music?
let's go for it. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. 100%. Like, I don't think streams are real, like, as a measure of anything. I mean, you can fake that shit pretty easily. Like, you can't fake sales at the end of the
You can
day. And,
you
like,
can fake sales, man. You
I
could
mean,
go
you
to
can fix. Okay, yeah. Who was it? Who was the South African person who like? It
with
was one
their
of the
own album.
rappers. Yeah, it was one of the rappers. I don't want to say Reason, but it might have been Reason. Where like play energy drink, like someone like yeah, like people
I
were
was it
accusing
was
them
it
of
not I
going gold
funny?
because.
Or was it someone else? No, no.
Oh yes, it might have been our fun. I can't remember. Someone will let us know in the comments. Yeah, because
Yep.
there's a comment section. Yeah, someone will tweet us and let us know. But there was a section where someone had like an energy drink apparently give away a bunch of their albums, which means they bought a bunch of them, and that like contributed to getting gold. So I mean, there's ways to manipulate that system too, but yeah, like the streams thing, I think can be manipulated. The algorithms can be manipulated, but it's the same problems like the music industry's always had. Except now, I do think the music industry is way more democratized. It's way easier for people to make music, put it on the internet, get it heard by people, have an audience. But yeah, the big labels are still fucking you over. That's not going to change. They still got all the money. They're still going to look at Justin Bieber's post about like how to support him and like,
Yeah.
you've got to fucking like I don't know if he actually wrote that thing of like, turn the volume down and you go to sleep and stream the thing on repeat or something.
Oh, really? Is that
But
what he said?
I don't know if he said that. I think someone was making a meme that I'm
Allegedly,
just
allegedly, allegedly. We don't know who's listening. Allegedly, allegedly.
allegedly. Uh, but yeah, man, I don't know. It's also just personally, like I've moved away from streaming stuff again, just because I don't want someone tracking my fucking listening habits to try and
Hey,
sell me
man.
more shit.
They're
Like
tracking
I'm just saying,
everything, bomb.
I know they are, but like they can track my fucking Pirate Bay download.
You're gonna see skateboards pop up in your timeline out of fucking nowhere for the next 2 weeks. Don't say I didn't warn you. I
uh,
You were talking about music being democratized, and I saw the negative of that recently. I was on the way to have lunch with some folks here in Joburg, and at the traffic light, I was driving my car and I wasn't wearing my mask. So this young guy comes over to the window, and normally I would just like pull away, not pull away, but like I'd bounce. I'd be like, "No, I'm good." But he recognized me, and then I was like, "Shit, I have to buy this mixtape now." so, so this kid, I kind of like semi put the window down,
Problems
and
with being on TV, hey?
oh man, I hate it. And he's like, so I'm like, how much, family? He says 80 Rand. I'm like, okay, cool. So I reach into my moon bag and I whip out all the money I can kind of find, and I give it to him, and he's like, yo, that 60 Rand is too short. So I'm like, okay. So I put
Mojak Lehoko from TV is giving me 60 rand for my mixtape. This motherfucker.
right. So I don't want to be a scammer now. I'm scamming a youth. Them. He had a Yoko too. In case you don't have cash, you can swipe at the traffic light.
That's
This dude,
amazing.
this dude
That
was
is
a full
amazing.
entrepreneur. He was a boss, dude. Anyway, I pull over. I find another 20. I give him this guap. I drive. I leave the thing. It's like sat in the passenger seat for like 2 weeks. So today I go to the range. And my boy Wade is like, yo, what is that? I'm like, oh, dude, I haven't even listened to this tape before. Let me chuck it on.
I've been here.
Bro, it was so bad. Dude. Like everyone who's listening, like please continue to support the arts. Like,
But maybe that's the thing about streaming is at least you get to give it a listen first.
Yo, I'm for buying stuff, man. You want me to pay full price for it? I'll cop. I've bought specials, for $5 and whatever. But like, dude, I was like, you know what is the worst thing? His flow was off. Yo, yo, hi.
Yeah, yeah, being
Hi.
offbeat, like not on purpose, is your one of the one of those things where, yeah, like I know I've received a lot of demos, dude, like from both Durban is Yours
Oh,
and from DYR. And like that was the biggest thing. It's like some people do it like on purpose and it's rad, but like that's you can hear, like you can literally hear because they're still like rapping like to a beat. It's just not on the beat. But like other people, like
dude,
literally are just not in time, like at all in anything.
bro. I'm gonna go back to that traffic light because I
Give it
gotta
back,
talk.
ask for a refund.
Or just tell them how I feel. Because where am I gonna review the shit? You know, there's no comment section in the streets, bro. This isn't like I just like I don't know, man. I respect these hustle,
Give
big
them
up.
some notes.
You know, on young entrepreneur, the beat selection was corny, the rhymes was off. You know how bad it was. I was like, I can do it better than this, and I haven't rapped in 10 years. And I was like, I can make a 7 track album better than this.
Yeah, but can you sell it on the streets with a Yoko?
Bro, I don't even have to. I'll put that shit on Twitter. I'm not saying people buy it, but I've got reach, man. I got
Yeah, but
reach,
he's
dude.
got sales, bro. He's literally making money from rap music whilst you're talking about it. That's all I'm
Well,
saying. That's all I'm saying.
so what are you implying, Bob? That he's the real deal and I'm being fraudulent? What's going on here?
I'm just saying a lot of us think we can do it better, but we don't.
So that's a great, that's a great thing to put on a t-shirt. A lot of you think you can do it better,
But
but
you don't.
but you but you don't, bro.
Uh,
Um,
Well, I was gonna say, like, getting into a crowded game. What made you start your podcast?
podcasting. I like talking to people, man. Like, I have the phrase like I hate strangers, I love people,
Amen.
and the only way to get to that point is to talk to someone and find out what they're about and what their philosophies and politics are. To be honest, sometimes it doesn't end well, particularly because I do stand up. So it's like I'm talking to drunks at the end of the show. It's like, yo, fucking, and then like, yesy, bruh. Like, my wife. And it's like, Jesus Christ, why did I talk to this person?
That is literally the worst part of our job. Like, no offense to anyone who comes and talks to me after the show. Sometimes I like it, but it's having to talk to people after the show because
Did, yeah.
the advice you get offered is it's really, bro. You like I could have that. Thank you for that joke. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you write so much better than me. Anyway, here's a t-shirt. So many people think they can do it, but you don't. Um, yeah, I like chatting to people and getting to know them, but the thing that fascinates me the most is the why. Oh, here's actually I think where this started. Years ago, you remember Kulula used to put comedians on their cover page.
On the magazine, I kind of wanted to do that once. I was like, hey, that's a goal.
It seemed very cool, man. I think it popped off, but they had asked me to do it, and you have to interview someone.
Yeah.
So they were like, "Who do you want to talk to?" I'm like, "I want to talk to Atandwa Kani, who is now in the States. Of course, he was in Black Panther. He was known as the Prince of Theater when he was here. Who I'd met like when he was doing this interesting drag character as part of a Wits Whale Festival. Anyway, I met him
Oh,
years ago, and he
snap.
was a really cool dude. And then the next person was Jenna Dover, who is a
What?
a
Rad.
lawyer and
KTV presenter.
yeah, and she's a model and lawyer. And I was like, yo, I want to interview these two people, man. This would be so cool. So anyway, the people at the publishing house set up the interviews, and I think I meet Atandwa in Rosebank. I put my phone down, I hit record. To do the same thing with Jenna and have these really interesting conversations of like wanting to know her story and about her craft and why she wanted to be such a great actress and why she learned French. And I record the shit, I send it off to the publishing house. They're like, this is like an hour and 20 minutes too long. Like, like
Oh man.
I sent them two 90-minute recordings and they wanted like 10 of like fluff, like, because it's just going into it.
Oh, so you didn't have to transcribe it.
Nah, but it's like, remember the shit's going into like an in-flight magazine, dude.
Yeah, it's a
I'm
little. Yeah, it's just question answer, one page, like you're done.
Bro, I'm doing a fucking Meghan Markle, Prince Harry, Oprah special with these two, bro. I'm like, yeah, and like, I went in, dude, because I wanted to know like about their stories and like why they did this shit. So the why for me is fascinating, and not just with people, with things. Like, but why does it do that? Why does it? How come when I press this input, it does that? And sharing that with people, I think, was more important. I think there's a lot you can learn about people's journeys and your own when you just watch like a really cool interview or a podcast.
Amen, bro. Like I'm very much on the same level there. Like, except
Mm,
I would say for me, like for you, it's the why. For me, it's almost like it's the how. It's
mm,
like, how do people get to where they are? You know, what are the
yes.
decisions you made that led you to this point? And then, that leads to why you made those decisions. But
Mm,
like I always so like I used to listen to WTF with Mark Maron for like probably like 8 or 9 years now. Like it's been maybe even 10, like at this point. It's
sure.
been so long, and I've loved podcasts. I've listened to podcasts forever. And the one thing that always stuck out for me in the Mark Maron interviews, well, one interview in particular was the one with Kevin Bacon. And he was
Mm,
talking about when he started in film and how everyone on set thought he was a square. And like he called them, like he wasn't invited to this party, and he called them to let them know the cops were like on the way, and then they just
what?
laughed at him. Yeah, dude, listen to the Kevin Bacon fucking episode of Mark Maron, WTF with Mark Maron, because he even
Crazy,
then
yeah.
talks about going to the premiere and then going back like to his job at, like, he was a waiter, and like it's crazy. So that to me was just like, you know, you see these people on in these situations, like even here in South Africa, like we see people like you on TV, we see people like Loy on Netflix, we see so many different people. Like for me, one of the best interviews I did was with Luisa Madinga, where he talks about having writer's block, despite the
Mm,
fact that this motherfucker's on Netflix. You know,
mm,
he's traveling the
mm,
country, he's doing big things. And so that's the thing to me that was always like kind of valuable, was lifting that veil a little bit and understanding that everyone's just a fucking person and you can do it too. So that was kind of the whole basis for me with my podcast, was just like, let me find out how South Africans do it and how different industries do it and how
mm.
different people can do it. Because my whole thing is, you can learn from experience, but the experience doesn't have to be your own. And that's the thing, like I've found from listening to podcasts, it's how much I've just learned from other people's experiences.
Mm. I mean, you're right. I think it's a way to sometimes fast track, not fast track your progress, but
Let's
a
get the
way
cheat
to,
code.
yeah, and just to miss certain hurdles. Like, dude, if someone's done it before you, like you're just saving yourself a bunch of time. I will say this though, that I was watching there's a comedy promoter who's talking about if he created a blueprint for South African comedy, and I was just like, nah, dude, because no one else has popped after you bounce. So obviously, either you're hoarding this shit or you've like your thing is just randomized. Um, so I was like, I'm not sure about this blueprint. Um, Podcasts. What do you listen to when
Oh,
you're
what
not
else?
making your own?
Let me actually just quickly open my phone and look at what's here, because I listen to a lot of different podcasts, mostly about Magic the Gathering strategy. But WTF Pod with Mark Maron, obviously. The Indicator about Planet Money, even more
Yes.
new. I listen to
Yeah.
Penn Sunday School, which is with Penn Gillette. I listen to On the Page, which is this podcast about writing film and writing for TV and all of that.
Yeah.
Radio New Frame is the South African podcast I've been listening to lately.
Yeah.
What else? Planet Money, Hidden Brain, Philosophize This, The Fat Wallet Show is another South African one. Revisionist History, Stuff You Should Know, good one.
Yes.
And also, This Is Important, the Workaholics podcast. That's fucking hilarious. Like,
Oh, nice.
yeah, you should check those guys out. So that's the thing. Like, I listen. I've got so many subscriptions, and I go into phases where like I'll just binge certain things. Like, there's a few that I listen to every week, but
Yeah.
mostly it's, like I'll wait a little while and then I'll listen to like 4 or 5 in a row, and just do that whilst I'm working or whilst I'm walking or catching a taxi or something. Like it's yeah. It's just the only problem with creating podcasts
Yeah.
and writing about music for a living is you don't get to listen to other stuff whilst you're doing your job.
Sure.
And you,
You
what are
miss
you
out
listening
on a
to?
lot. What am I listening to? Bodega Boys, probably my top favorite.
Oh, classic.
Jesus Nice and the Kid Mero, those are my dudes. Yep,
Dude,
you're.
Kid Miro got me into Rock Marciano. Like that dude's like reviews on Noisy like 6 or 7 years ago were the shit. He used to do like caps lock reviews and he was amazing. Also
I
got me into
dig.
French Montana. So yeah,
Oh
it was
wow.
hard.
Yeah, those guys are fire. I really dig their energy. Fraudsters is an interesting one. It's by this guy I met years ago. He's a comic, and I think he might be a lecturer of African studies. And it's about people who do fraudulent stuff, basically, or who use like the worries and concerns of the people to generate wealth for themselves. Like.
Oh snap! So you're getting some tips.
Nah, I mean, I'm not ready to be a pastor just yet, but Dr. Umar Johnson, Rachel Dolezal, the Grand Wizard David Duke,
Wow.
like it's really interesting, and they have this crazy
L. Ron
research
Hubbard.
team. Who's he? Isn't he the what's it?
He's the
The
dude who started Scientology.
Yeah, there's a L. Ron Hubbard house here in Joburg. Like
Yeah, yeah.
what's
I've got the business card of the guy who runs the thing. I want to go visit it. Like I met them at Comic Con and was like, I want to come to your house. And then they gave me the phone, like the card with the phone number. And I've just been too scared to call it from my own cell phone.
That's funny. They got you, bro. Once they got your digits, you fucked. You're gonna be doing Scientology orgies and shit.
I mean,
Um,
it works out all right for some people.
I mean, Tom Cruise and no one else. Who else is?
Tell
I
me you
like.
would have won his career.
Nah, I'd want to be taller. So we've got hot boxing with Mike Tyson. That's really good. Quite interesting. Iron
Oh, is
Mike
it?
is.
I haven't heard that yet. I saw him on AEW wrestling the other day. That's my only interaction with Mike recently.
Mike Tyson's fascinating for me because I think he is probably one of the greatest boxers of all time, but also that just had like a really troubled, like and fucked up life. Like his marriage with Givens, his trainer dying. Like, he talks a lot about survival, how a lot of the stuff he did was just like survival, dude, and how he had to unlearn all of that stuff.
But
Like
that's the
one of
thing.
the
He's a great example for that of someone who's done terrible things and actually learned from them and actually done his time and tried to get better.
dude, I agree with you. And one of the craziest things I heard in these podcasts was like someone that was commenting on how relaxed he is, and he said, "You don't know how much violence it took me to make me this calm." And I was like, "That's quite an interesting." When you think of trauma that people go through, like how much sometimes you have to process to get to a point of like peace, to get to that end goal.
Yeah, man. That's the thing. There is like a lot of people go through that turmoil and that adversity and like it was something like Lawyer was mentioning on the podcast I did with him, where it's like,
Mm,
it's easy to condemn people, it's easy to judge, it's easy to say what that person did was wrong. And yes, we can all do that.
yeah.
But why? How do we fix it? How do we change it? How do we prevent it from happening again? Those are meant to be the questions, but we're often just caught up in our righteous indignation of condemning people, because I think there's still lots of people who wouldn't fuck with Mike Tyson. And sure, like there's valid
Yes.
reasons, but at
Mm.
the same time, you have to give opportunity for redemption. Like you have to. Like that's the whole point of the. I mean, the judicial system's fucked, but it's the whole point of that. It's the whole point of justice. It's the whole point. Like justice isn't about someone else having to die. It's about making sure that that person doesn't do the thing again and like is reformed and society itself is made better by it. And looking at Mark's career over the last few years is hard, not even just the last few years in general, it's hard to say like it hasn't been a positive benefit to the world.
Yeah, I think he definitely improved, and he figured out what was troubling him. And it's interesting, like I say, he's a violent. He's kind of the sport of boxing, which I love, and I watch because it's a sweet science as opposed to like UFC, just like people getting the shit beat out of them. I know
Like
people
you, dude.
listen.
UFC has got science to it, but I'm with you.
No, I just mean like it's not like fucking knees to the head and like
It's a
I
bit more
could
brutal.
Yes, it's with boxing is like I could watch a dude like slip a bunch of punches, and that's as exciting as a overhand right hook, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
and to see Mike just change and become a really different human being who's less aggressive, less triggered, who's kind of aware of his size and stature and what he meant, and it's still kind of this. It's interesting. Today's been about unlearning in terms of what we've been talking about, but I think that's the reason why I dig him is like he is unlearning, and that's a process I guess we're all going through.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that Lisa got there first, like with the show title.
Yeah, I mean it's great. It's really like it's one of the from a marketing perspective, it's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, and he works on that forever, but like it is kind of the process. Well, not always. I guess some comedians don't. Like some comedians like just get more into their own ways as they get older, but others like, spend their entire career just unlearning all the shit that like they were saying when they were younger.
Yeah, I agree. To Loy's credit, he's been harping on, not harping, that makes it seem like he was like this annoying guy. He's been focused on this idea of unlearning for years, like even before it was a show. I think it was a thing he would like say in conversation. And so to see it like now encapsulated into this thing is like really great to see after spending so much time on himself and trying to figure shit out.
Yeah, but I think it's important as an artist to do that. Like, what are you offering to the world if you don't know yourself?
I don't want to unlearn, Bob. I want to be stuck in my old habits of not preparing for gigs, not writing enough, and then using incredible crowd work to get me out of bullshit.
Yeah, your crowd work is annoyingly good. Like, I won't lie. Like, I hate like it's like I'm like I know I can write good jokes, but holy shit, like the way I mean, you like we won't pull the curtain back too much, but like, you know what you're doing a little bit before the person opens their mouth. But like you're quick with it.
Yo, it's from all the westerns I watched growing up. I watched zero westerns, by the way, for anybody listening. Not my fucking genre of things, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I need to start writing again. That's what I'm trying to do. What are you working on at the moment? Like,
At the moment, not much. I've been trying to keep my ground alive. That's been my number one priority. Done pretty well so far. We're getting
well
there,
played.
and
Nice one, nice one.
I'm either moving back home in the next week or two. So
Hmm.
then I actually have to start thinking about what I'm doing with my life. But
Yep.
the main thing I'm focusing on at the moment is I've written a short film called "Waiting for Frank." I might change that name because there's an actual coke dealer in Durban called Frank, and it's about waiting for him. Um, like it's kind of like waiting for Godot, but not like at all. It's about this guy and this girl who are waiting for the drug dealer outside the Winston in Durban, and the interactions they have whilst that happens. So that's the main thing I've got at the moment. I've sent that script to a few friends to get some notes, and
Dope.
then I'm gonna send it to a few producer friends to get some notes and maybe some people saying, "Hey, let's make this thing." And so that's the majority of
Yeah.
my thing at the moment. The podcast as well is a big project. I'm
Hmm.
constantly updating the websites, working on the SEO, trying to like just improve like lots of little things, improve the edits every time I do it. Just like those are the two biggest things at the moment because I really scaled back this year on my goals. I was like last year was like, I'm going to have my special on fucking Showmax. I'm going to have like Heat City Comedy Festival be like bigger than ever, like all these things. And yeah, nothing happened. So I've learned if I can produce a podcast every Friday, like I said on your episode you did with me,
Yeah.
like then I would have felt like this year was a success. But I know you're working on a comedy show at the moment. I mean, I'm not saying I'm writing for comedy, but like
Yeah.
those are just notes, until I get to actually do it. But
I feel
yourself,
you.
what's your vibe at the moment?
Um, uh, online show that we did season one of. There's a little bit of chit chat about that.
Nice.
Um, we just did a run at the Bioscope in Joburg, so I'm kind of sitting tight until I have another run of like my show. Like I'm not really doing gigs
Yeah.
in between. What else I got popping? I'm trying to start writing again, man. I'm trying to get active and get fit. I'm not drinking anymore. Well, not anymore. I'm just taking a little break.
I mean, I took a
Um,
2 day break. I'm proud of myself.
2 days. That's crazy. So my
I'm
rule is if I
living with my
yeah.
grand. Like, I'm a 34-year-old man.
Okay, no judgment. I take it all back. But I if I go a week without drinking, I buy a bottle of wine and then I can't drink it because I'm still not drinking. So I'm trying to amass a
Ooh, that
collection,
is nice.
a sneaky way. So hopefully by the end of this year, I'll have like 30 bottles of really high grade wine.
Of Checkers
That's
Oddbins.
not Checkers or Bins. We're going big, Bob. We're splurging out on these bottles. We're going 2016 things. No, I'm not going too crazy, but they are
The
some nice.
2018 Robertson's Ruby Cabernet.
We gotta go a little bit further. I want some exclusive selections, but yeah, getting ready for this online show. Lots of people reaching out and asking about stuff, but I'm maxing, relaxing, bro. Video games to keep me sane, working out, just trying to
Actually,
live a little.
can I quickly ask you a question about that? You said lots of people
Mm.
asking you things. Are you saying no because the fee at the moment has just been cut short ridiculously?
A little bit of that, a little bit of like I don't really want to do this. A little bit of like, wait, who are you? Yeah,
Oh, okay.
no, like not in a bad way. It's like
Why would I
I
do this?
no, just like I was talking to someone and I was like, you know what, my pops used to always be like, why are people so greedy? like, like why do they want all this shit? Like, so a part of me is like trying not to be greedy and snatch at everything that comes my way and if it makes sense you know and I've been lucky I think throughout my whole career that whenever I'm in dire need of something something pops up and like my expenses are low, bro. Car just got paid off, so it's like that kind of stuff. I live a low expense life, so I
I'm
don't
with you
need as
there,
much
bro.
as maybe other people need. So I can be a little bit more selective and choose what I want to do, and maybe I make less money, and that's fine. But it's enough. It's enough. I'm eating. I'm eating. I'm buying wine. I don't drink, so it all works out. Are you getting the same kind of phone calls,
Oh,
or
definitely
or
not.
people reaching out?
No. Like but like, dude, like I post like I've made a lot of like very public like posts about how I feel about comedy and the industry and everything like that. So I'm not expecting my phone to be buzzing anytime soon. Like I know if I want to do some things, I'm gonna have to make some calls. I've just seen how everyone else has been dealing with things. I've just seen how yeah, like a lot of people have been complaining about the corporates cutting rates and stuff like that for comedy. But I'm with you there when it comes to the whole choosing what you want to work for kind of thing, because I was even chatting to Paige the other day and like I've been thinking about it a ton. And I know it might be arrogant to say when I'm not getting the offers, but like I don't want to do adverts, like
Yeah.
I don't want to be the guy on TV that people see from the advert. I want to be Bob, like the guy that they know from being fucking Bob. like, like not from hey, like,
Yeah.
and that's no shade to anyone who's doing it because it's good money. It's a great way to get recognized. It's a great way
Yes.
to get experience acting. Like, if you are okay with that and you want to do that, please, please, please fucking do that. And don't think I am judging you. I am not at all. It is just
Yes.
something I have had to think about for myself and go, is this a path you want to take? And it's no.
Not gonna lie, Bob. I'm for the adverts. They just allow me to get a different kind of wine. No, I like a little bit of a mix. But you know what I recently just did? Oh man, actually, I don't know if I can talk about it, but I did a Afrikaans movie, dude. I mean, my dialogue was
What?
in English, but it's a full-on Afrikaans short movie, and they're gonna try to take it to Fest. I just got like a screenshot of it. I saw some of like the footage, and it was really fun, dude. I
See,
I
that's
think
the
that's
shit
all
I
I
want to
can
do.
say.
Like, that sounds amazing, dude. like creating dope shit with rad people, like that gets seen by people, like, and it doesn't like it's art. Like that's what I want to do. I want to create art. I don't want to create ads.
Yeah, I'm trying to write a short now, but we'll see. Anyway, I rambled on about all the shit that I'm not doing.
All the shit you got in the pipeline.
Fuck pipelines, bro. Bomb, thank you,
What's
man. This
actually
was fun. Yeah, yeah. Go
Wait,
ahead.
one more question before we do end this. What is the plan for your fucking podcast? Because I want to hear more episodes. But you like, so have you? Do you agree with me? Fuck video, and you're just gonna go for audio only.
No, I don't agree with you. I'll tell you why. I've spent all this money on this equipment, Bob, and I need to somehow recuperate this money. No, but the plan for the podcast was to have people in my flat, in my apartment, and record with them, And that's how I did the podcast anyway, when it was just
Yeah,
audio. But since the panoramics, I kind of just shut it down and I tried doing it remotely. And I'm pretty good with tech, but the 2-3 episodes that I recorded were not of the quality that I like, and I'm all about production value. So I said, until I can find an alternative way to make something that I'm happy with, because I love the conversation, but I don't want people to tune out because it doesn't sound right. And
yeah.
so I'm gonna take 5. But now that you've put me onto this, shout out Zencaster, send us some guap. I'm like, oh shit, there is a way to do this. So I might try this out. So shout out to you, Bob, for plugging me into to
Well, I've actually got to
Zencaster.
give a shout out to Simi because Simi's the one who I think mentioned Zencaster to me first. So shout outs to Simi for putting me onto that because it's been so helpful. I mean, it's also been a little buggy and
Yep.
it's caused some issues during both the Loy interview and the fucking Moonchild Sinelli interview. Not
Damn.
the two most famous people I've interviewed or anything, you know, like
The big ones.
having shit
Big
cut
dippers.
out.
Oh
But
no.
at the same time, it has just been a very useful way to do the stuff remotely. But I'm with you, man. There is nothing like having a conversation with someone in person. But this has been fucking great. So thank you.
It's been super dope. Thank you. Shout out once again, Aref, for putting us on. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is Mojak Lehoko from Tell Us More. And of course,
This is Bob Perfect from the Almost Perfect podcast.
buddy, rank.